PC gaming isn't expensive, a core aspect of it is. And currently, building a PC with a dedicated video card remains a challenge greater than the task itself. It's not about finding the exact one you want as much as it's about finding the right one that fits your budget. What's happening YouTube and the internet? Terrence here, and we are back inside the lab. And if this is your first time to the channel, subscribe with the notification bell turned on to catch all future content and take your experience as a PC gamer to the next level when you join as a channel member. And now PC gaming can certainly be a confusing but thrilling endeavor to ultimately achieve. But before you build or buy your next gaming PC, there's a few things you should know first with a bonus tip towards the end of this video. So be sure to stick around for that. But first and foremost, regardless of your platform, a CPU with 6 to 8 cores will be more than enough to handle modern games and any other task you may want to undertake. If you're wondering which silicone vendor you should go with, AMD or Intel, consider an AMD Ryzen CPU for the best value for your money, or Intel if your primary focus is gaming and you want slightly better single core performance. A good rule of thumb, target the fastest CPU for your money on the most current chipset or motherboard for that CPU. The goal here is investing in features that you plan on actually using on both your CPU and motherboard. If you're uninterested in overclocking, don't waste money on enthusiast grade hardware or high-end components. And depending on your CPU, you may need or want to buy an aftermarket cooler. Again, if you're not overclocking or have a lower end CPU, then you can pick up a decent air cooler starting between $40 to $50, or an AIO, which is an all-in-one liquid cooler, for roughly $20 more. Research your components before buying them and budget around your expectations and needs accordingly. And now RAM or memory is pretty straightforward. For most systems, 16 gigabytes should be the target, with 32 gigabytes or more being the best case scenario for streamers, creators, and those with more dynamic and complex workloads. A frequency or speed between 3000 megahertz and 3200 megahertz is an ideal starting point, but a good step here is to check your motherboard's quality vendor list and pick a kit that's best optimized for that chipset. This is going to increase the likelihood of allowing you to enable a stable DLCP or XMP. It's a bit dated, but to get a better idea on how DDR4 speeds it can affect the impact of your games, watch this video here. Then your storage drive. What I recommend is a standard SSD. Obviously, more or the higher the capacity is better, but that typically scales with price and could have other differentiating factors. Factors like reliability, form factor, manufacturer, and interface, just to name a few. But a 500 gigabyte SSD or an SSD in general is a worthy and affordable addition to your system. You could add a hard disk drive as a backup solution or as expanded storage for games you may not play as often, but installing your core programs, right, and your OS and games on an SSD is going to provide a much better experience. And online games that act as a service continue to get larger in file size. This is why it's critical to assess the type of games you want to play and budget accordingly when determining your storage needs. But regardless of your price point, 500 gigabytes should be the bare minimum for a gaming PC. If your budget allows it, invest in the highest possible storage solution you could afford, with 1 terabyte being a viable option for most users or for most gamers. And then when shopping for your power supply, you can use tools like PCPartPicker.com to guesstimate your expected system wattage. This could vary between systems, but the higher end the components, the more power your system will draw and consume. But typically 350 to 500 watts is suitable for most low-end systems, with about 550 to 750 watts being ideal for most mid-tier systems, and 750 watts being the ideal unit for higher end or enthusiast grade components. But if you can, invest in a fully modular or at best semi-modular power supply unit. It'll make for future upgrades and servicing your system a much easier task down the road. And for your case, it's good to try and find a balance between style and substance, or the best quality case for your money. And again, this is to ensure you won't run into any clearance or overhead issues over the next few years. Wanting to upgrade your case yearly is perfectly fine, but could prove to be costly and laborious. I personally enjoy case shopping. It's one of my favorite parts of the research process, but it's best to find a tower that has all of the qualities you personally want within a case. It's best to have as minimum regret or buyer's remorse here as possible. And if you're interested in a case that costs just under 60 USD, watch the review of the Montech X1 here. It's a decent mid-sized case, comes with 4 RGB fans, but for more details, check that video out. But a good pro tip is to use PCPartPicker.com when configuring your system, especially when shopping for your case, as the tool will alert you with any hardware incompatibilities or clearance issues. And then when you're building a PC with a dedicated video card, a GPU engine, better known as a graphics card, this is going to require you to invest at least $500 to $600 for a modern unit or a card release within the last 3 years. It's an expensive piece to the puzzle and will likely be the case for the foreseeable future. Currently, as of 2021, graphics cards are widely unavailable at most retailers or sold up at a markup of between 50% to 60% on average. This is due to the global chip shortage paired with the usually high demand and a lower than expected supply. And this issue is likely to persist throughout the remainder of the year and beyond, and that's on both the new and used markets. But my best advice here is to consider your ideal resolution and refresh rate with the type of games you want to play. Those 3 areas will be your biggest determining factors when deciding on your graphic needs. If you're content with gaming at a resolution under 1080p at mild settings, then you may not even need a dedicated video card. You could reserve some of that budget by going with the CPU that has integrated graphics, which means a CPU that supports onboard graphics. These would come in the form of a non-F-based Intel CPU, which historically aren't suitable for modern games at a resolution beyond 720p, and G-class Radeon Vega graphics found on modern AMD CPUs, which make for better options at 720p and 1080p low to medium settings. They often cost more than a CPU without integrated graphics, but still ships with a capable cooler, which can help you save money toward adding a dedicated card down the road. And if you're still with us, then you made it this far for that bonus tip promised at the beginning of this video. And it's a huge one because it could save you some serious coin. And that is, you don't need to spend $100 on a Windows 10 key. If you're interested in learning how to activate or install Windows 10 with a legit Windows 10 key for significantly less, you can get a rapid fire version by watching this short video here or by following the step-by-step guide that we posted over on our website. You can find both of those links down in the description box below. But to get the most out of your games at 1080p or higher, you're going to want to invest a little more in the graphics department, as this component, which is fundamental to any gaming PC, will make up for at least 60% of your total build cost. But look, PC gaming isn't expensive, a core aspect of it is, and currently building a PC with a dedicated video card remains a challenge greater than the task itself. It's not about finding the exact one you want as much as it's about finding the right one that fits your budget. And if you're interested in how much VRAM you may need for the different type of games you want to play, watch this video here, hit the like button for me on this video, and subscribe if you haven't yet and you're new to the community, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Be easy.